Welcome to part 2. This is my excellent book on Blue Note jazz, Uncompromising Expression. It goes over the story of Blue Note, a lot of the albums, recording stories, pictures, all sorts of stuff. We're going to be talking a lot about Blue Note in this video, but before we get to that, I thought that I would cover all the other jazz... I don't know where to put this. But before we get to Blue Note, I thought that I would cover all the other jazz albums that I have that kind of fit into this weird third box that's not like my super high-end stuff, not my Blue Note box. The first two albums I got right here. This is Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. This is a reissue of the first Jazz Messengers album. This is a CBS reissue from 1968. CBS, Columbia. Yeah. Picked this up at Record Collectors Paradise in Edmonton, as well as Soulfinger, another Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers album. Next, we have my John Coltrane collection. So, like I said last time, the Coltrane albums that I had, that I started with, were Blue Train and A Love Supreme. This is actually a fairly recent pickup. This is the 60th anniversary deluxe edition of Giant Steps. The reason that I only picked it up recently was because there's so many different versions of it. There's, the mono, the stereo, 60 years worth of reissues. Like, you think it's bad with like classic rock albums, but jazz is just... Next, I have a lot of John Coltrane albums on Impulse. It's kind of a dark album cover, so it might be a little bit hard to see on there. I wouldn't recommend it to a new... Oh my god. No wonder we can't see those. I didn't have my light on. Oh my god. Take it from the top. Rookie mistake. I'm not going to take it from the very top, but I'm going to show you these John Coltrane albums again. So there's Giant Steps. There's Coltrane. Wow, look at how that pops more than it does when I had no light on it. Duke Ellington and John Coltrane, once again, fantastic album. Sunship, would not recommend for new listeners. Crescent is a very beautiful album. That one, yeah, I'd recommend it for a new listener. And then I have my second copy of A Love Supreme that we're going to see in this video series. This is the Complete Masters. So this is a 3 LP set, and it also has the quartet and the sextet sessions. It's worth getting for all the supplementary material because it's such a good album, but once again, very difficult, not very accessible for new. A fairly recent Impulse release is John Coltrane's Both Directions at Once, which is a Lost album, Lost Sessions, that was finally released with the help of the Coltrane estate. And actually, speaking of the Coltrane estate, if you ever plan on playing any John Coltrane music in videos or live streams or anything like that, don't, because they will shut you down. They will copyright strike you immediately. Believe me. They were on me like wildfire. So that's John Coltrane's stuff. I'm a huge John Coltrane fan, if you hadn't noticed. Him and Art Blakey are probably the two artists that I have the most releases from. Oh, and something cool about the Impulse releases is that they look really good on a shelf. Be wary though, I did have a couple other Impulse releases, but some of them were just a little too noisy for me. It's hit or miss with the quality control on those ones, and they can go anywhere from $20 to $30. So if you're taking a risk on something that's a little more expensive, I would hope that the quality control is a little bit better on it. You know what I mean? What do I got next to show you guys? This has probably been in my collection the longest out of all my jazz albums. This is Bob James and Earl One on One, it's a very mellow, kind of smooth jazz. I do have a Bob James, recently I've picked up another Bob James record. If you want something laid back to listen to, I highly recommend checking out this one. I know that there's a half-speed master copy from the 80s that exists out there that I would love. So hey, if you want to hunt that down and give it to me, I would. Next up, we actually have one of my favorite jazz artists, and that is French composer Michel Legrand. Here I have Holiday in Rome, which it's not a great copy of the album. See, it's a little damaged there. I picked it up at a thrift store, but Michel Legrand is a fantastic composer. Most of the soundtracks, actually, for the filmmaker Jacques Demy, like The Umbrellas of Cherbourg and The Young Girls of Rochefort. If you're into French New Wave cinema or French musicals, and also an amazing jazz composer. Actually, he has a spot on my top shelf for one of my most expensive, high quality record pressings. But these ones are also very good. This is the Columbia album of Cole Porter, where Michel Legrand's doing a bunch of Cole Porter stuff. This one, I haven't listened to this one in a while. I should do it again. Michel Legrand recorded live at Jimmy's. I don't know where Jimmy's is. You would probably recognize I Will Wait, as made famous by Tony Bennett, but it appeared in Jacques Demy's movie The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. You would know it if you heard it. It's fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful jazz song. That's a Michel Legrand original. And I have, oh, look at that. Performs music from The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Speak of the Devil, and also themes and variations for two pianos and orchestra for The Go-Between. I don't know The Go-Between, but I know The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. One of my favorite movies. Highly recommend checking it out, and that is a great one. This one, this picked up at Winnipeg Record and Tape Co. Recent release, Thelonious Monk, Palo Alto, which was recorded when he did a show at a high school. Very good release. Also on Impulse Records. Audio quality, it would be what you'd expect, recorded on a tape machine, unprofessionally, you know. But it's cool. I don't know. Sounds great. Most of my Thelonious Monk is actually live stuff. This was a very affordable Thelonious Monk album. Sound quality is not the best, but it's a 2LP, Paris 1969. It was about $20. So I'm not going to complain about that. And it's Thelonious Monk. And the last record from my random record, Sonny Rollins' Saxophone Colossus, one of those essential jazz albums. I bought this one because it said the lacquers were cut by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. When it comes to jazz, specifically, if you see Kevin Gray's name on something, it's probably going to sound pretty damn good. So I would highly recommend picking up something. If you're not sure, there's different factors to take into account, but usually if Kevin Gray's name is on it, it'll sound pretty damn good. So before we move on to Blue Note, I'm just going to switch my battery over here. I probably didn't even need to tell you. It is a great time to be a jazz collector because there are so many different affordable reissue series going on at the moment. Come on, get it together. Blue Note is one of my favorite jazz labels. It's a lot of people's favorite jazz labels, and they have contemporary artists as well, such as Norah Jones. You may be familiar. I only have two Norah Jones albums, actually. One is the latest, Pick Me Up Off the Floor, and then I have this Daybreaks. I decided to pick it up because it is a fantastic orange color. The average person does not realize that Norah Jones is, like, still a big deal. She had a huge album with Come Away With Me in the early 2000s, and maybe didn't stay in, like, the top 40 mindset of people who don't really actively seek out music. So I had a conversation with one of my coworkers, and she actually said, oh yeah, when it comes to jazz, I don't like jazz, but I like Norah Jones. It's a shame that she never made it big. So like I was saying, I keep trying to jump ahead, but I'm not ready to yet. This is actually something that's really cool, and if you can find more of these, I highly recommend checking it out if you want a little taste of jazz. It's basically a Blue Note jazz sampler. The first one of 1959 to 1969 has some great names, and they'll throw in a track from each kind of thing, as any compilation would. And then as well as this Blue Note Preserved, which is a live digital album from the 80s, 1985, yes, and features the likes of Herbie Hancock, Freddie Hubbard, Joe Henderson, Ron Carter, Bobby Hutcherson. It's a really fun live album. I got this actually before I knew a whole lot about jazz, but it was like Blue Note, had to pick it up. Now I can say it's a great time to be a jazz collector because there are so many reissue series going on right now. And one that I am super excited about is the Blue Note 80th Anniversary series. Now, technically, it's already come to an end. This is what followed up the 75th Anniversary series. There are some of the best sounding records on the market at the most affordable prices that you can find. Now, it's about a $30 price point, maybe a little bit more if it's a double album, but let me tell you, it is worth it. And I'm considering trying to hunt down the whole series. Probably not going to happen. So I have a few of these Blue Note 80 series. All right. You remember they had the double for the 75th. There was the 2-album Art Blakey live album. Well, this series also has a double Art Blakey live album with Meet You at the Jazz Corner of the World, Volume 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure this is still at Birdland. But let's just don't quote me on that and let's move on, shall we? They've released a lot of Art Blakey in this series, which I am just psyched about because it sounds so good, and some of these lineups are fantastic. Here's Buhaina's Delight, Indestructible, one of my favorite jazz albums. I'll say Monin is an essential, but like right after that, I think I prefer this one a little bit more. But if you get one, you need this one. This has my favorite Art Blakey song of all time. Why can't I think of Sortie, which it's like, oh my god, it just builds and it builds and it builds, and then the payoff at the end is so freaking worth it. Anyways, Art Blakey, Indestructible. Buy this album. Buy this. This is, if you come away from this video with remembering one thing, that's buy this album. Then we have this Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers Just Cool, and this actually came out this year. This was a shelved session recorded in 1959, so this thing has not seen the light of day until this year. And remember when I said most Art Blakey albums are great? I'll say that about every Art Blakey album, except for maybe one. This one's just good. The first time I listened to it, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But then after going back and listening to the other sessions that were actually released, it's nice to have an unreleased first pressing. It's fine. It's good. This is a great album. Donald Byrd's Ethiopian Nights. It only has 3 tracks. It's got some jams, man. This is funky jazz right here. This is funky soul jazz. If you kind of need, like, if you like kind of funk music, but you're not sure if you really like jazz, this is a great kind of bridge. Highly recommend this one. But we're good. I hope. I'm a huge Dexter Gordon fan. I've got some more Dexter Gordon records to show you guys, but I have been listening to a lot of Dexter Gordon lately, and Doing All Right is a fantastic album. Freddie Hubbard, Hubtones. That's a good one. Sounds great because everything in the 80s series sounds great. And then I got a live Horace Silver album, The Quintets at the Village Gate. I don't know what to say. It's just great. Let's just move on. There's lots to talk about, okay? So those are all the Blue Note 80s series, and I said that I would collect them because they're finished now, right? And now they're moving on to the Blue Note Classic series. So what they're doing is they're doing the same presentation. So with the 80s series, you have an all analog pressing, a high quality 180 gram vinyl, but like just a regular old, not fancy at all cardboard sleeve. Now with this next series, this is the series that I've been trying to collect them, like all of, because it's amazing, and it's another great example of how it's a great time to be a jazz fan and jazz vinyl collector. The Blue Note Tone Poet series is these super high quality record releases. They're all analog. They come in these amazing jackets. This first batch, they're not gatefold. Most of the releases are gatefold because they're trying to release all this original session photography. And they're these nice glossy covers. They're the tip-on jacket. They're solid. They're hard, heavy stock. The same weight and lacquer system as the 80 series, but this is just one step up from the previous series. These are fancy records at a fairly affordable price. These are some titles that, from my understanding, have not been re-released or repressed in a long time, so they're a bit harder to get your hands on. These aren't like the classic, like the big classic. So they're not the entry level jazz stuff, but I feel like I've really learned a lot about jazz by listening to these things. So I've talked enough. Let's just actually take a look at the ones that I have, right? So we got Lou Donaldson's Shingling. This is a fantastic funky jazz album. Highly recommended. New Bottle, Old Wine, Gil Evans, and featuring Cannonball Adderley. Gil Evans did a lot of the arrangement for Miles Davis back in the day. So that's another fantastic. That's a buy. Herbie Hancock's The Prisoner, which is one that I haven't listened to as much as I should, so I'm going to add that on. Joe Henderson, we've got a double. Ron Carter is also on this, and I'm kind of a Ron Carter fanboy, as you've learned by these videos, but there's The State of Tenor 1 and 2. Now, some of these are not analog cuts, because this was recorded digitally. If the albums were recorded digitally, they'll take the best version that they can, and they'll make the best sounding records that they can. And that's what they've done with that one. And then, actually, this one came in today. Probably not today when you're watching this, but this is Duke Pearson's The Phantom. I said that I wanted to collect all the tone poets, so I have a couple tone poets to show you. Just a couple. First one here, I have Chet Baker Sings. Chet Baker, of course, famous trumpet player. And then this is an album where he does a lot of vocal work. So I'm just going to take the album out there, and I'll show you just how nice some of these tone poets can be. We open it up, and we got like full session photography. These are absolutely gorgeous and definitely worth it. So if you can pick up a tone poet here and there, I say go for it, man, because they are beautiful. Just beautiful. This is the first Art Blakey album released on the Tone Poets label, Roots and Herbs, and my God, is it amazing. Most of these tone poets are, I've found. I will tell you, I'm gonna be completely transparent, and when I have an album that I don't really relate to, I will let you know. This is not one of those albums. This is Tina Brooks' Minor Move. Highly recommend it. They've really done a great series here. Introducing Kenny Burrell, another one which is just unbelievable. Donald Byrd's Chant. I don't like it as much as Ethiopian Nights, but still great, amazing sounding jazz record. Here we go. Muddy Jungle. This is another one of those albums that I had as a Wax Time issue. That was one of the first jazz records that I bought. This is Duke Ellington with Charles Mingus and Max Roach. And Duke Ellington was kind of an old man by this point. NANI? And Max Roach and Charles Mingus were kind of the young boys in the game, right? And they come from a different kind of style of jazz. And I guess there was a lot of animosity behind this recording. They were supposed to compose a lot of things together, but I think Duke Ellington kind of took it upon himself to kind of lead the band, where it was supposed to be more of a collaborative effort. But that all said, this is one of the most interesting jazz recordings I've ever heard in my life. And I would highly recommend you add this to your collection, or at least go listen to it and experience it. Then we got my boy Dexter Gordon and Clubhouse, one of the greatest jazz albums of all time. Yeah, you know what? One of my favorite jazz albums of all time. I don't know if it's the greatest, because I don't think I'm an authority to say that kind of thing, but hot damn, is this a great album. We got Grant Green's Nigeria. Jazz guitar is something that I've really don't have a lot of experience with, but I've been learning a lot about and in listening to jazz. And when it's there, it's pretty cool. My Point of View, Herbie Hancock. Another great one. I have several Herbie Hancock albums, and I don't think I've listened to any of them as much as I should. Anyways, I'll get there. This is Bobby Hutcherson, The Kicker. This is the first time on vinyl. That's pretty cool. They're really reaching in those catalogs and finding things that need a repress, So, props. One of the greatest jazz covers of all time. Jackie McLean's It's Time. Hank Mobley, Poppin'. Lee Morgan's Cornbread. That was one of the first tone poets that I bought, actually. Sam Rivers' Contours. Now, this one, the first time I listened to it, I did not like this album, because it's out there, it's different, it's a little more free jazz. Recently I've listened to it, and my opinion has changed a little bit. I am getting used to it. It has a stellar lineup, though. Freddie Hubbard, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Joe Chambers. And then, of course, Sam Rivers. Wayne Shorter's Etc. I think this was the first tone poet that they released. They recently did a repress of it, and that's how I got my hands on it. Horace Silver Quintet. Further Explorations by the Horace Silver Quintet. This is a great album as well. That's one of my higher recommendations for the Tone Poet series. Prayer Meeting with Jimmy Smith and Stanley Turrentine. I am a big fan of Stanley Turrentine, actually. I believe that the next Tone Poet I got, yep, it is. This is a Stanley Turrentine album. Very happy album. I don't know why this is. This has some very happy sax compositions on it, and I very much enjoy it. Then we got some more Stanley Turrentine with Hustlin'. Babyface Willette, Face to Face. This is some excellent organ jive music.
Like if there was a party at church,
Probably my least favorite jazz tone poet release is Cassandra Wilson. The music itself is beautiful, but the pressing just leaves something to be desired. It feels very fuzzy to me. I mean, this is I want to say it's an early 2000s album. It says 2003. Double album, so there's a lot of music on here, but I don't think the pressing was quite up to snuff. So, unfortunately, it's one of the more expensive ones, being a double album, so I can't justify buying a new copy to seeing if it's just this copy of it, but maybe one day. I don't know. So that's all the tone poets I got, and I feel like I've been talking for quite a long time now, so we're going to break this up into three videos, I guess. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in number 3.